it more or less similar to the other contract, Annexure 17?
Yeah, it is more or less. I don't know if Mr. Chair did manage to find the remuneration on the contract.
What paragraph of the contract is it at?
So at the end, of the contract, there should be an annexure.
It's on page 115.
115, yeah.
My assistant.
Thanks, Advocate Dupré.
550,000 remuneration.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was eventually what was given to Mr. Mbalati.
Oh, agreed.
Thank you. It helps to have a legal counsel who's gonna, help you look for annexures and references.
Yes.
Chair, if I may, the last allegation from Mr. Mbalati, and I quote, I fought for them in a changing room, and when things didn't go well sometimes in a selection, you find that they want to drop the African player for a white player. I will stand up for those players and say no. But why this guy has been doing his work, close quote. So this obviously is in the transcript that he would fight for the players of color or black players who were overlooked for the white players. Chair, this one, it's pretty much, there's no selection that happens in the change rooms. The coach selects a team outside. He would obviously consult with his coaches, or rather assistant coach, and select his playing 11 or the team that he's going to travel with. So it's not something that I would, and he would have consulted with the captain as well at the time. So it's not something that would happen in the change room where I would say, so and so and so is gonna, he's not gonna play, or so and so is gonna play. Team lists are shared before that, and everybody's aware pretty much in terms of the playing 12. So
I would ask you to be speculating, but why do you think he would say something like that? If it had no precedent. I'm not saying it had. Yeah. It's just that, it's the oddest thing for anyone to say that the selection would take place in a change room.
Chair, if I may speculate, Mr. Mbalati at the time was one of the senior players. I can imagine him sort of standing up, perhaps, or looking at the younger players and trying to mentor them. But also, perhaps, maybe not understanding why they're not playing and, white counterparts playing. And perhaps he would then challenge why they're not playing. But team selections wouldn't necessarily happen in the change rooms. I would think he was a big brother to a lot of young black players.
Sorry to interject, Mr. Kass. No, just to follow up on that, how sure are you that team selection wouldn't happen in the change room? I understand that wouldn't be the norm, but from some of the evidence that we heard was that, there were different places where teams would be selected, and the team selection would be concluded even at bars or restaurants at times and so forth. So where, how sure are you of that response?
So, Advocate, I'm basing it on procedure. I'm basing it on that if you're going to travel to Bloemfontein to play there, you have to travel with a team that you would have pre-selected. You don't go with everybody to Bloemfontein and then in a change room before the game starts, then pick the playing 11. I'm basing it on pretty much that procedure that you would be required to sort of submit the playing list as well prior to playing. And that's why my confidence is based on that, And I know that there could have been perhaps some unprofessional behavior or conduct for people to then discuss teams in bars or wherever, and which I haven't been really privy or aware of, but I can tell you that procedure definitely wouldn't allow that. And any coach that would discuss any team, any coach in the Titans that would discuss any team informally, especially at bars, I think should it get to us, management will definitely deal with it accordingly. Yeah, it wouldn't be allowed at all.
Thank you.
Well, stranger things have happened. If we had to believe what we hear and see on television, just recently the Judicial Service Commission and candidate was asked why she conducted interviews in Top's bar or something like that. Where alcohol was being sold.
Oh, goodness.
So,
Interesting.
all I'm just saying, stranger things have happened.
It's crazy that two incidents relate to alcohol influence as well.
Yeah, exactly.
One or the other, the environment and some maybe consumption in the bar as well.
It's only when the candidate started to apologize, because I thought maybe from where it was coming from, the questioning, I thought he was just being himself, as always, being controversial. And but he seemed to be sure of his facts until the candidate said, well, I apologize. And then I said, oh, yeah, well, now I've had it all. Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it wasn't in the cricketing.
Yeah,
world
no.
You've had that, Chair. If I may move to the last remaining allegations. So outside Ethimbalati, we have Mr. Aaron Pangiso.
Yes.
Mr. Pangiso pretty much has one allegation, and that is that when he was 19 and he was selected for the under-19 South Africa team, he did well at the time and he was obviously within our structures. He was contracted by Northern Cricket Union and was earning 1,200 rands, which was way lower than his counterparts at the time, who also played for the South Africa under-19 team, namely Mr. Faf du Plessis, Mr. Heinrich Leroux, and Mr. Franz Nguna as well. So Mr. Pangiso obviously paid 1,200 as opposed to the other players who earned approximately 5,000 rands, according to his knowledge. Chair, I must confirm that that is correct. However, that's not entirely correct because there's different structures of the 5,000 rands being paid to these players. So let me say rather that these players were pretty much given the 5,000 rands as a retainer. So these are the guys who are very young, who are talented, who've just made the under-19 South African team, and they are hot property. Other provinces would be interested. So you want to sort of have some kind of a retention strategy to ensure that they stay within the system so they can play for the Titans one day. The reason why Mr. Pangiso earned 1,200 is that they would all be given an opportunity to choose how the salary should be structured. So Mr. Pangiso's salary was structured, and let me just refer you to Annexure 23, where Mr. Finley Brooker was actually the coach at the time, and it was explained
Page
in that.
116.
So, because Mr. Pangiso was, pretty much from Soshanguve, his 5,000 rand was structured in three ways, So, part of it would go to his accommodation to be close to Supersport Park, where would get the best opportunity to get to the stadium first, and obviously be in an environment that would, put him very close to facilities that he would then practice with the, Titans B or Northerns B at the time. And he would then receive groceries from the amount that he received as part of the the 5,000 rands stipend. I'll call it a stipend at the time. So this is the only difference. Whereas white players would stay within proximity to the stadium, they wouldn't necessarily need care in terms of groceries, and they wouldn't necessarily need to be close to the stadiums, as opposed to a black young player traveling about 60 plus kilometers from a township in Soshanguve every day, required to sort of be in Supersport Park. That was never going to help his cause from focusing on cricket and growing as a player as well.
Why was this not explained to him? Because in his affidavit he says the details of that contract, as you're saying, the breakdown of the amount, that was not explained to him. Did he know this? Was it explained to him?
And this obviously would be the details in the contract. But I mean, given his age at 19, perhaps, I don't know if he maybe didn't, was it explained to him? It should have been explained, if you ask me, because you're dealing with a 19-year-old here at the time. Clearly he was not aware of it, and hence he actually brought it up, in his own mind and in his own knowledge. White players earn 5,000 rands, and I was earning 1.2, but why? I am not too sure, to be honest, Advocate, if it was articulated clearly to him what the 5,000 entails, or rather, where the other money from his stipend, goes towards. But clearly, he obviously was not under that impression, and hence he made the submission.
Right. So was the does the union have details of the contract of this 2003 contract?
I am not sure, Advocate. What I'll do is let me commit to digging for those contracts, and we'll share with them. I don't know if I don't think the actual contracts were shared here. If they were, and that's why I would love to call it a stipend, because it was not a formal contract by the Titans. It was from a Northern Cricket Union, who's an amateur structure of the Titans, pretty much a feeding sort of, but we had to sort of retain them at the time to ensure that they don't attract other franchises as talented as they were at the time. But let me just get back to you on this one.
We would need to have that. We need to see those details to understand this breakdown, as opposed to just being confirmed
via email
on a statement or affidavit, and then would need to make a comparison with the players that the union agrees was paying the full amount to without deductions.
100%. We'll have noted this. Yeah.
Thanks,
noted.
Mr. Kass.
Thank you. Okay. Mposeloa's allegation. So I quote, the coach then was Mr. Malibongwe Maketa. The decision to come back home was the right one, but I felt that the coach and I were not on the same page. That's Mr. Seloe. We had our differences, and that really added a lot in the way I thought of my game. My struggles as a black player really started to show in these years. While I understand the concept of working hard and being rewarded, I do not, however, understand the concept when white players come straight out of high school and getting offered Titans contracts, which is, the franchise team for Northerns. Goes on to say that this happens obviously throughout the country. Black player would play in the B team and never make the A team. Chair, I'll just answer this just for the Titans, not obviously for the whole country and other franchises. At the time, Mr. Mposeloe was playing, and perhaps expecting to be signed, as a wicket-keeper batsman playing for the Titans. He was not, unfortunately, competing alone for that spot. There were other sort of wicket-keeper batsmen in the province, and some, including some being obviously players of color as well. I have to note that a senior contract for the Titans was given to a player of color, Mangaliso Mosehle, who's coming within the Eastern Titans structures to play then for the Titans. So Maybe I just wanted to clarify that under no ways was Mr. Mposilowe discriminated whatsoever because of the color of his skin. Because if an opportunity was afforded to another black person, there's no way that he was going to be, there's no way that you overlooked him based on racial discrimination. We've also included Mr. Silowa's statistics that would have been the base of the selection, given that they were both, black wicketkeeper batsmen at the time. That's in annexure. That's page 117 from the coach. We've obtained a statement through an email, and the following page would then reflect Mr. Mposilowe's statistics. Now, to help the commission or the chair and the advocate, I'll explain pretty much in cricketing terms. If you look at page 118 and you look at his statistics, so it indicates a number of matches that he would have played and the number of runs that he would have scored. But an average of 19.53 and 19.75 and 16.62 in different formats of the game is not reflective of really a batsman that would expect a contract from Northern Titans. I have to say that, and I know Mpo was a great player, but we are guided by statistics, and unfortunately they are not supporting his case of expecting to be sort of selected or elected for the Titans. And like I said, it was not discrimination whatsoever because a black player was considered rather for that a contract for the Titans.
Move on to Mr. Prince.
Okay, Mr. Prince, being the last allegation. Mr. Prince alleges that 3 players, A.B. de Villiers, Jacques Rudolph, and Paul Harris, called him a quota player during a match that the Titans played against the Warriors in 2009. Chair, we've obtained, affidavits from all 3 of the senior players, and in their affidavits, they pretty much deny the allegations that they have called Mr. Ashwell Prince a player of color. And if we can maybe visit those affidavits. 24 to 27. That will be from page 119, Chair. Thanks. So page 119, so Mr. A.B. de Villiers made a statement to the 3 allegations, but I'll speak to the first one only, and simply because it talks to the Titans game. The other 2, I think they would have been addressed by Cricket South Africa earlier, or they will be addressed at some point. I think they have been addressed by Mr. Linda Zondi. The allegation, Mr. A.B. de Villiers responds that, my former Proteas teammate, Ashwell Prince, has said that 3 players, Paul Harris, Jacques Rudolph, and me, refer to him as a quota player. Ashwell and I have not always seen eye to eye, but I have always respected him as a person and as a cricketer. And I have never referred to him as a quota player or in racial terms. That's Mr. A.B. de Villiers' statement and response to the allegation. And Mr. Paul Harris also made an affidavit similar, denying the charge, the allegations. And again, Mr. Jacques Rudolph as well, which we've included them in this submissions. So, I think that would be it from the allegations, unless obviously there's questions. But I want to be given an opportunity to say that it's been a journey. It's been a journey, there's been obviously incidents that and allegations that have been brought obviously before the commission, and I've been following, right? And some have been proven to be correct, some have been admitted, and some obviously in most cases in our standing as far as these allegations are concerned, we believe they are not as factual, and there's obviously proof that they aren't. But it doesn't necessarily mean that there weren't issues in cricket, from a race discrimination, from inclusivity, from diversity and discrimination, and certainly segregations at times. As a former player, I definitely understand that there could have been obviously those incidents within cricket, and I'm not talking about this, responses to the commission. Like I said earlier, we've come a long way. Cricket is a lot better from an environment perspective, from an inclusivity than where we were, 5, 10, even 20 years ago. It can only grow stronger from here. And simply by keeping each other honest through such discussions and hearings to pretty much try and address, past incidents and ensure that the game that we love moves forward as a unit and sustainably so, representing the demographics of the country, as Tata Mandela would have hoped, as a rainbow nation would play together and become one, genuinely, so, and sincerely so as well. Titans cricket definitely also comes a long way, like any other structure within cricket. Things went as they are today, and definitely not close to where we want them to be. Again, from ensuring that we, perpetuate such behavior of, inclusivity. We ensure that players are a lot more clued up and educated from a cultural diversity perspective, to ensure that everybody coming from their different spaces could respect this common sort of ground that we have created. And if nobody's not going to respect that space, unfortunately, we have to, for the best of cricket and other players as well, especially those that are previously disadvantaged, have to deal with those matters decisively and accordingly as well. Transformation is part of who I am as a black man, obviously, playing a white sport, and obviously given the country and its history as well. I'm passionate about it, and I can tell you that as a union, we've given it all the focus, especially in the last 4 to 5 years. We've revised policies, we've changed, and it shows in our numbers. But what I like more than anything else is that we're showing good performances, even with the transformed sort of picture that we have, which is a wonderful picture. So suddenly, it sort of gets everybody to buy into this thing that it's actually better, and that we are stronger together, as opposed to just a replacement, that's going to pretty much decline the quality overall of the sport, So I just wanted to end with those words and say, and thank you, the Commission, both your advocate and chair, for the opportunity to represent, obviously, the Titans and contribute to this commission. And hopefully, my contributions and the union as well will be, change significant going forward in the sport and concluding in this hearings. Thank you, Chair.
I continue to hear about the franchises having been discontinued. Do you know why?
They have unbundled the franchises. So previously the system was there were more provinces playing cricket, first-class cricket. And then at some point, and I'm not too sure what was the strategy at the time, I was actually young, still playing, they then merged, provinces. So Easterns would be merged then with Titans to become one. That would be the East Rand and in Pretoria mostly. And Northwest would be merged with Gauteng. I would have thought it had to do perhaps with cost cutting, maybe at the time. And as a player at the time, I did not like it simply because it minimized my chances, of making the professional team. But then obviously a decision was taken in the last 2 years to actually unbundle. And that's the competition that you're seeing right now. That now there's more provinces playing at that level. More players are getting an opportunity. And it's quite wonderful to see a lot of, especially players of color, getting so many opportunities. Some have left actually the Titans to play for other provinces, and simply because there's more opportunities on the table. And that obviously being the players of color and, white players as well having left the province. So it's quite exciting, and I'm hoping we can actually sustain the current structure. So I don't think I don't know if it has anything else outside that, Chair, that it would have happened, but I think it has to do with opportunity and the independence of other unions as well.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the contributions today, like contributions that we've had over the number of days, but particularly today, have been extensive, have been premised on documentation, and I didn't get a sense that those like you who testified were not seeking to inform me as much as I can be informed for purposes of me understanding where the testimonies come from and where hopefully we will get to. As I say, since I was involved in these hearings, I've been impressed by how passionate people are on either side, whether they are the so-called perpetrators or the so-called victims. There's one place where I seem to get a sense that whatever the allegations and whatever the responses are, the game of cricket is sought by all of us who have an interest in cricket to continue to be available, if not for us. I'm talking about you now. At whatever level you are now intervening at cricket, whether it's at managerial level, at coaching level, or whatever levels, and the players, that everybody will now feel this is a sport for all of us. You know, the constitution of this country opens with a preamble that is quite aspirational. We, the people of South Africa, united in our diversity. And those words are pregnant with meaning. They seem to be stating contrasts, but the meaning is profound. Profound because it recognizes that we are diverse from whichever perspective we look at things. But the aspiration is that the diversity should not, in and of itself, hinder the unity that we must have so that we can continue, all of us together, without there being a feeling of unfairness which is based on racial discrimination. And though we have not had a lot of it in these hearings, also based on gender. So the task for us is going to begin now, because all the contributions, in my view, have been quite profound, quite engaging, and quite thought-provoking. And I only hope at the end of it, all of us who participated in these hearings will find that there was fair consideration of views and proposals that were expressed by all of us who testified. And we'll do our best. I'll do my best, even if it is not my best, but I'll certainly do my best to make sure that every single testimony has been considered, properly and fairly evaluated, and might hopefully promote that unity in our diversity. And I couldn't have done it without the contributions that you made and all the other witnesses made. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thanks.
We are adjourned for purposes of until tomorrow morning.